NASCAR has revealed the layout that we will use as Circuit of the Americas, and it looks like the Darlington Throwback race will be moving to a new location on the NASCAR Cup Series schedule. What's going on, guys? It's Daniel, and welcome back to another video. We got a couple of NASCAR stories to discuss here today on the channel. Let's go ahead and just jump straight into it. The first story we're going to talk about is Chris Buescher, as he will be the driver for the next-gen car at Daytona next Tuesday and Wednesday. He'll be the test driver on the next-gen car on December 15th and 16th on a super speedway at Daytona. They will be testing the drag and power levels for the super speedway races that we will run later this year. Chris Buescher, again, will just be doing like a system check to see how the drag and power levels are going to work on the car. I've said this many, many times. I'm going to say this once again. They need to keep testing this car as much as possible, because if this next-gen car does not work out very well, the future of sport could really be hurting, and it could eventually be in jeopardy if the next-gen car is great. Everything NASCAR has done has been really good, but if this next-gen car does not work out, it will all be for nothing. So this next-gen car needs to succeed for this sport to continue to survive long-term, like I'm talking about the next 30, 40 years. So I'm glad they're testing this car quite a bit. And then the next test probably won't be until early next year, when all the manufacturers will get it. And that's when we will start seeing 3 or 4 cars on the track. This is probably going to be the last single car test. So that is all we know. And I don't know if I'm going to talk too much about the single car test. I'll probably, maybe, I don't know. We'll have to see what happens. But we will now know that Chris Buescher will be testing the next-gen car at Daytona this upcoming week. On to the next story. We're going to talk about the Whelen Modified Tour schedule, as is one of the final NASCAR schedules to be revealed. We now are still waiting on the ARCA East and West schedules to be revealed, but today the Whelen Modified Tour schedule has been revealed. Let's go ahead and go through the schedule. So starting off, we will start out at Martinsville National Speedway on April 8th, followed by Stafford Motor Speedway on April 25th, and then we'll head to Riverhead Speedway on May 15th, followed by Jennerstown on May 29th. After that, we'll head to Oswego on June 12th, and then a week later, we'll head back to Riverhead on June 19th, followed by New Hampshire on July 17th, and then we'll head to New York International Speedway on July 31st, followed by Stafford once again on August 6th, and then we'll head to Beach Ridge for the first time since 2005 on August 21st. After that, we'll head once again to Oswego Speedway on September 4th, followed by Richmond on September 10th, and then we'll once again, for the final time, go to Riverhead on September 18th, and then we'll go to Stafford for the final time, and will be the final race of the 2021 Whelen Modified Tour season. I look at a few things on the schedule. Of course, you have to look at 2 of the big races, 3 big races, actually. You have to look at Martinsville being a crown jewel event for the Whelen Modified Tour. That's a huge event for the Whelen Modified Tour, especially since it's going to be on the stage at Martinsville. You have to look at New Hampshire, though, being possibly the most important race on the schedule for the Whelen Modified Tours, because it's like the home turf for a lot of these drivers. A lot of drivers look at New Hampshire as the top-tier event for the Whelen Modified Tour. I know many, many drivers have that event circled to try to go out and win, and I think the racing will be really good at New Hampshire, and also I think the racing will be good at Richmond as well. Like I mentioned, we're going back to Beach Ridge for the first time since 2005, so it's really great to see Beach Ridge back on the Whelen Modified Tour schedule. Honestly, I think the schedule looks really, really good. I like it. Unfortunately, though, there's one racetrack that you do notice that is not on the schedule. Thompson Speedway, for the first time in quite some time, will not be returning to the Whelen Modified Tour schedule. Hopefully, in the future, that does come back to the Whelen Modified Tour schedule, but unfortunately, that will not be returning to the Whelen Modified Tour schedule in 2021. That is the Whelen Modified Tour schedule. And on to the next story, we're going to talk about Tyler Reddick, as it was just announced out of nowhere today that Tyler Reddick will race for Our Motorsports at Daytona's Xfinity Series race. This is the only race that Tyler Reddick is expected to drive in 2021 for Our Motorsports. This looks like that is going to be the case. Now, a lot of people are probably wondering, why is Tyler Reddick racing a second Our Motorsports car? Aren't they only supposed to be running one Our Motorsports car in 2021? Well, there is a big rumor that has been going around that Santino Ferrucci is probably going to run 20 races with Our Motorsports in 2021, though that has not been confirmed by Our Motorsports at the moment. The rumor is that he's going to run 20 Xfinity Series races for Our Motorsports in 2021. So they're probably just getting Santino Ferrucci prepared, and I think it's really smart that they're going to run 2 cars, especially since they probably want to become a competitive team long term. I think Tyler Reddick realistically has a really good shot of winning this race, especially since this is a super speedway event, and generally anyone can win one of these super speedway events. On top of that, I think he is a really good super speedway racer. Yes, he pulled the bad block in Kyle Busch at Daytona earlier this year at the cutoff race, which took out a bunch of cars like Kyle and Kurt, but didn't take off any of the playoff cutoff drivers. But Tyler Reddick, I think, is a solid super speedway racer, and I think he'll have, honestly, a really good shot of winning with our motorsports in 2021 at Daytona. But we'll have to see what happens. But he's ineligible for the Xfinity Series. He's running full-time in the Cup Series, but it's really great to see that Tyler Reddick will be racing with our motorsports in the Xfinity Series at Daytona next year. And now we're getting on one of the two major stories of this episode. As about 12 o'clock this afternoon, it was revealed that Circuit of the Americas has revealed their layout that they're going to use. And the layout they're going to run is the full 3.41-mile layout that they've ran for F1 and IndyCar in 2019. And for both those races, laps have not been announced. I think, though, they'll probably go around 60 to 63 laps is what I think is how many laps they're going to end up running for the event. I can tell you right now, I am very, very, very excited about this. There have been rumors circulating that NASCAR was considering running the shorter layout, the smaller layout they have at Circuit of the Americas. But the fact that they're going to run the full layout at Circuit of the Americas is super, super exciting. And yes, I know that this track is built purposely for open wheel cars like F1 and Indy cars, but I think the road course package, especially in NASCAR, is generally going to be really, really good this year, especially since, they're running 750 horsepower package for all the road course races this year in the lower spoilers and a high horsepower, low downforce package for the road course races. The races, especially at the road course tracks, are generally really good. And there's quite a few passing zones, especially on this full layout. I mean, there's a long straightaway where you can get a huge run and then if you're really good at braking, like Chase Elliott is on road courses, you're going to be able to use that to have an advantage to go out there and perform well at COTA. And there's going to be a lot of drivers looking at this event thinking, can I be really competitive? Would I be better on the short course or the long course? I think drivers are going to be looking at this full circuit to see, how am I going to attack this track? How good am I going to be at this racetrack? I think a lot of drivers will be looking at this race, especially probably the Truck Series and Xfinity Series races, to see how the races are generally going to go. But man, I am super excited. I've been wanting them to run the full layout, I think it's going to make a much more exciting race than a shorter circuit. No offense to people who wanted the shorter circuit, but I really am a big fan of the longer circuit. I've seen a lot more fans really happy about this move than the other thing that we'll talk about later today. But as I mentioned, we will run the full layout at COTA, and I can't wait for the COTA race to take place later this year. And now we're getting on to the final story of this episode. As I mentioned at the beginning of this episode, the Darlington Throwback race is being moved, but it is not being moved to another racetrack. Darlington Throwback race is going to be moved to the spring weekend race that they have set for May 7th tonight. That is Mother's Day weekend. So they're moving it from the playoff date of the Southern 500 and moving it to the 400-mile race, basically the Rebel 400. I have mixed feelings on this one right here. Honestly, I completely understand that they are moving the Throwback weekend over to, the spring weekend because of the playoff weekend. The sponsors really do want that these drivers are important. I feel like when they moved this race as a playoff date, it made the Throwback weekend feel not as special, in my honest opinion. I think it really made especially there were so many throwback cars of drivers that were not in the playoffs, and I think it really ended up, hurting the Throwback weekend. And many drivers weren't as involved because I think a lot of drivers were focused on the playoffs, and sponsors were also not happy as well. But at the same time, I think it really is going to hurt the Throwback weekend. I do not honestly expect there to be as many cars and as many drivers participating in the Throwback weekend because it takes a lot longer for these throwback schemes to kind of be approved and ready to go. I think it's going to be a lot less games. I think at least half the field will definitely be able to participate. I think drivers like Kyle Busch and Joey Logano and those drivers, including Chase Elliott, will probably be able to get schemes approved. And I'm talking about the smaller teams. I don't expect many drivers to really be involved this year in the throwback schemes because honestly, they're just not going to have as much time. They have 3 or 4 less months to be able to, prepare for the throwback schemes. And I'm just neutral about this. I'm not disappointed, but I'm definitely not 100% happy with this move taking place because I really was a big fan of Throwback Weekend making the Southern 500. And unfortunately, I think this is going to hurt the traditionalism of the throwback, not just Throwback Weekend, but the Southern 500 I think is going to really be hurt by this because really what rejuvenated the Throwback Weekend, the Southern 500, in my honest opinion, was, adding the throwback races starting in 2015. When they made that a Throwback Weekend, I think it brought Southern 500 back to the top. But when they made this a playoff race, it really hurt the Southern 500. And the Southern 500, in my honest opinion, is just going to feel like an ordinary race. It is still going to be a crown jewel, of course, and I think drivers want to win at Darlington. But it's going to feel more like, a traditional, like, regular NASCAR race than it is like a special race. Because that's what made the Southern 500 such a special race, was the throwback weekend. So that really is going to unfortunately hurt the Darlington throwback weekend. I feel like that is what's really going to hurt event. But I do completely understand why NASCAR has made a decision to make this event, make this decision because of the sponsorship issues. But that being said, I am not 100% happy with the move that they made here, but I completely understand why they decided to make this, move the throwback weekend from where it usually was. That's just my thoughts on that. So, anyway, that is going to be for today's NASCAR news video. I want to thank you guys for watching. Please like and subscribe to the channel, notifications, so you get me notified when a video does go live on my channel. Follow me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Link in the description below for that, and comment your thoughts on today's video. What are your thoughts about the throwback weekend being moved to earlier this year? Do you think that NASCAR made the right decision on that or not? Do you think they made the right call? Let me know in the comments below. And what are your thoughts on NASCAR running the full COTA layout in 2021? Do you think NASCAR made the right decision to do that or not? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed today's video, make sure you like to so YouTube can recommend more videos like this out to you guys. If you do that, I greatly appreciate it because support, especially recently, has been greatly appreciated. Thank you guys for your continued support. I do greatly appreciate it. Anyway, like I said, I want to thank you guys for watching today's video, and I'll see you guys next time. Take care, everybody.